Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman has a message for Texas's Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Where's my money? So now, if you're unfamiliar with what's going on between those two, they're having a little bit of back and forth, a little tit for tat, okay? And it involves voter fraud and a bounty on voter fraud. So now, interesting. So what Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, again, he's Lieutenant Governor of Texas, he put out a $1 million reward for evidence of in-person voter fraud. So now, what did John Fetterman do? Well, John Fetterman's a Democrat. Dan Patrick's a Republican. Well, Fetterman says, okay, I can find you some voter fraud. Let's do it, right? Well, he did. In fact, in Pennsylvania, there's a high-profile case that emerged in which a man admitted to illegally casting a ballot in the name of his dead mother. Well, that's obvious voter fraud. The suspect also registered his dead mother-in-law to vote with the intention of casting another ballot. Oh, okay. A similar case surfaced in another place in the state in which a man sought to vote in this election twice, again using his dead mother. So dead people voting, that's obviously voter fraud. That's real bad. So, hey, he found 3 cases of voter fraud with mail-in ballots. And so, hey, Patrick, pay up. We found it. We found it. Oh, but there's a little bit of a problem here, okay? Because it turns out all these people tried to vote for Donald Trump twice, sometimes 3 times. Not for Biden. Well, that's inconvenient. It doesn't really fit with the narrative that Democrats are doing massive in-person voter fraud, which is what Dan Patrick, his entire, bet was about. Let's find evidence, massive evidence of Democrat voter fraud so that we can, support Donald Trump in his statements that there is massive Democratic voter fraud and that he actually won the election by a very large margin. So very inconvenient to show that most of the voter fraud here is not widespread and is also for Donald Trump. Yikes. Now, Fetterman told the Houston Chronicle later that his campaign against Patrick was meant to discredit the unfounded idea that the election for Donald Trump was rigged. And claims, of course, that the court after court after court rejected because none of Trump's lawyers brought any sort of evidence in order to make their claims. In fact, there were Republican judges, there were judges that Donald Trump had appointed that were like, okay, look, you have these claims. All right, well, give us some evidence. Give us something, right? What did you find? Where is this evidence? And they said, well, yeah, we don't have it. But it's there, but we don't have it. Oh, well, okay, well, we cannot proceed without any evidence. It just, we can't do it. And so now, Fetterman, by the way, that $1 million would go to charity. I just wanted to mention that because that's what Fetterman had put out. He's like, hey, look, pay us, give me my $1 million so I can go put it towards charity. Okay, good. I think that's great. Now, he also admitted that he has been amused by the Pennsylvania voter fraud cases that involved those Trump supporters, the ones that I cited earlier. He said, while it's undoubtedly and undeniably hilarious that these cases involve Trump voters and their dead mothers, it's irrelevant because it documents how truly rare voter fraud is and how impossible it is to truly pull it off. Well, I mean, it's true, right? Now, HuffPost also reached out to Patrick's office for comment about the reward money. And after some time, a Patrick spokesperson responded to MSNBC's request. So now, here's what they said. It is not clear why Lieutenant Governor Fetterman continues on this topic, since Democrats don't believe in voter fraud, unless it's the Russians. That was it. That's what he said. That's what he said. Okay, but here's the thing. Nobody says the Russians were voting in our elections legally. Now, I would have a problem with that. I would assume that Trump supporters, you would probably have a problem with that. I mean, that is illegal in-person voter fraud. Those are illegal immigrants over here. They're coming in and they're voting. Not good, right? That would be bad. Democrats also didn't say that Russians were changing vote totals. I believe this is what we call a non sequitur. Democrats do not believe in widespread in-person voter fraud because there's no evidence of it. Now, that said, if you want to talk about Russia, I mean, there was interference in our elections, sure, in social media, on social media. And we have evidence of that. We have evidence of, bots and troll farms, okay? And with fake accounts, and, they would spread misinformation. And then, of course, more substantively, the Mueller investigation that did find some credible evidence that led to actual arrests of several of Trump's inner circle, whom Trump has since pardoned. All right, so there you go. Not exactly the same thing, all right? And look, again, nobody on the left claims that voter fraud doesn't happen. It does, but it's infinitesimally small and not enough to overturn an election. It's somewhere around, what, 0.00025%? Sure, it happens. It's very, again, incredibly rare. And of that, most of that is actually done by mistake and very rarely done maliciously. And in the few cases it does happen, more often than not, it tends to be a Republican that does it. And usually the excuse is, well, I was testing the system to make sure it's secure, and stuff like that. I mean, I just wanted to make sure that it was secure, so I voted for a Republican twice. But here's the thing. These are documented cases. Okay, these are documented cases. And the reason that we caught them is because we actually do have systems in place that try to protect the integrity of the vote. We all care about the integrity of the vote. We all want every vote to matter, right? Every legal vote to matter. We all care about this. We all care about democracy. I would hope so, anyway. And so that's good that we have these systems in place that do catch the very rare, instances of voter fraud. Okay? That said, our system is quite robust in that respect. Although in other ways, the system is sadly lacking, and is very susceptible to not voter fraud, but voter suppression. Making sure that certain people are not able, people that should be eligible to vote, are unable to access the polls or able to make their vote count, whether it be through massively long lines, not enough polling places, mysterious changes in voter registration, or just voter registration rules that are fairly draconian. And registration that is not universal. Things that make it so that people don't vote. Or just make things, again, very hard for people to vote. That said, doesn't do, it doesn't really go after that kind of suppression the way that it goes after actual in-person voter fraud. Because, and it's strange because voter fraud actually happens a lot less than voter suppression. So, that said, with all that I've seen here, I'm fairly sure that Patrick's going to need to pay up. I mean, look, hey, a Republican gave your word, right? $1 million reward. Well, he found that voter fraud. Time to pay up. Time to pay up. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.